Hey YouTube, Machismo Eugene, another video from Exit Strategy. Welcome. Today I want to talk about letting the dead bury the dead. Who are the dead? The dead are the ones who don't share in the direction God is directing you. Essentially, the dead are those who are ones who have not so much assisted the narcissist in doing the detrimental things they did to you, but they are associated, they are acquainted, they are affiliated with the narcissist. Dead may be a strong word, but in this instance, it is appropriate. You can't get out of a relationship with a narcissist and have awakened and still accept the fact that some of the people associated with them are to be still had in your circle. This is going to be a hard choice for a lot of people, but the more awakened you become, the easier this will be. I always like to say you have to clean your shoe off from the dog shit, and once you do, you still, a lot of times, are left with the scent. It takes time. But you don't want to have to wrestle with the scent and then end up stepping in another big pile of poop. This is what you do when you hang your neck out and you play this game in your head saying, well, they're not that bad. They're not bad. It's not their fault that Susie's a narcissist and she tried to create problems in my life. Because I'll show you. By my own experience, what you're going to notice once you distance yourself from the narcissist becoming awakened. The narcissist knows when you're awake, by the way. I haven't had a Hoover in 4 years from the first, not the first wife, but the wife I married in 2019. I've had not one Hoover. When I woke up in a major way. I fell off the bed. I bumped my head on the floor when I woke up. You will notice when you awaken and distance yourself from the narcissist, you will notice that people will begin to come around you that normally used to not come around as much. You will see a flow of people coming around. This was a few years ago, and it's ceased tremendously in the last year or two. The reason why it has ceased because these people will come around, they will ask you a general question. What you been up to? How you doing? And once you're awakened, freshly awakened, you begin to share, if not directly, oh, there was a narcissist I was involved with, I'm just trying to get my life back together. You will say, man, I had this person in my life. You won't even have to use the description of what you've discovered. Those people, unbeknownst to you, they are aware that you just got played by something, an entity. And guess what? These people are probably of that same entity. At the very least, they are minions. They are trying to siphon stuff, information out of you. And essentially, they will run into that narcissist at a gas station or store and say, hey, I saw Machismo the other day, and what's going on with you guys? So they'll play two ends against the middle. Because all they want is a juicy story. And they want to see somebody hurt, in despair, and downtrodden. So essentially, they are just as evil. And possibly, very much possibly, are narcissists as well. When you wake up from the initial narcissist that you were in close proximity with, living with, cohabitating with, God will allow you the ability, and He will afford you the gift of seeing many, many more narcissists. This is when the veil is lifted. 4 years into this, I still, on a daily, I can watch a television show if I should choose to watch TV, or if I saw a program on YouTube, I will be able to determine within just a few minutes. Not surface stuff, we're talking about in a few minutes, because you give people, it's innate to your nature. An empath will always give individuals a benefit of the doubt. Even though we're awakened, we're still giving people the benefit of the doubt. That is just innate to how we move. But the difference now is we're giving people the benefit of that doubt in a very fresh eye way. We have that level of awareness with that benefit of doubt. Because if we didn't give people the benefit of the doubt, we would be living in a world all of our own, based on our own decisions all the time, everywhere we go. We have to have intake or input from some things outside of us in order to be able to cohabitate with people in a very effective, fluid, efficient, healthy way. We don't want energy that is negative to flow into people's lives that are not negative. So this is a give and take of sorts in the world, and God planned it that way. We're to learn from one another. Not to belabor that, but that is just what I mean when I say that we have to give benefit of doubt on the surface. Nobody in and of themselves deserve your trust, your allegiance, your friendship, or none of this. Be the kind person that you are organically. Be that light organically. And God will draw these people like mind to you. But you will also be drawn, or the darkness will be drawn to you too. See, the darkness loves to come to the light, but they don't want light itself. They want to put the light out. Isn't that the darkest thing you ever want to see? No pun intended. Darkness loves when they see light, but they don't love light in order to see. They love the light in order to put it out. I made a video about the narcissist likes to sit near the bonfire, but they won't do anything to contribute to it. Go check that video out. And so the dead, let the dead bury the dead. Distance yourself from all of these people. My buddy made a video about karma. You are the karma. Because when you distance yourself from any and all things narcissist involved or narcissist defined, not narcissistic behavior. Narcissistic behavior is innate to everyone. I'm talking narcissist disorder. When you see the narcissist, you leave the narcissist where you see them at. You don't find yourself giving yourself time to get out in respects to these external friends I'm referring to. Not so much a relationship in where you have to plan a strategy. It's not an up and done in many cases, so be wise about that. But you are to evacuate. You get out, you don't give a memo to some of these external friends and people who you see periodically. You essentially ghost them. You make them miss you. Make them miss you. Don't feel bad about it. Life is very good once you realize your life is not your own. You were made for a purpose. Your life essentially is better when you find out what you are here to do for others in a real meaningful way. That's the best way I can say happiness is to me. Again, I'm not forcing these things. I'm not forcing myself to be good to the world. The goodness that God has put in you is going to flow out. Long as you don't hoard it and become self-absorbed with your goodness, thinking it's just for you, your goodness will flow. Everywhere you go, your goodness will flow. You don't have to be a Bible thumper to have goodness come out of you, but you have to have some type of direction by God that is spiritually driven. You're not going to get it out of a lot of philosophical books. You're not going to get it out of philosophical books. Because philosophy will keep you running and running and running, chasing the next new thing. It sounds eloquent. It's beautifully written. But I just believe it doesn't have depth. It doesn't have a base. It doesn't have a landing pad to rest. And so, spiritually speaking, draw off of God and you will see what He has for you. You will be able to understand what He means when He said, let the dead bury the dead. Because your heart is going to tell you, this is post-awakening. You'll have these thoughts of like conflicted thoughts like, I can't just stop talking to my mom or my dad or my sister. We grew up together from a little child. If you know and have determined, for the most part, you may not have a definitive idea that they are narcissists, but if you awaken, you have a strong indicator that they could be narcissists. The way you find out definitively, you start distancing yourself. You let them be. You let them be. You let them stay in their space, in their lane. You disconnect, you block, you do whatever you got to do. And in no time at all, they will help you discover whether they are narcissists, because they're not going to be happy about your disconnect. Now, your heartstrings are going to be tugged, because when they reach back out to you, you're going to be feeling a certain amount of guilt if you don't placate their little conversation of sorts or their little engagement. If you don't go along and get along, you are so afraid of how that you're going to be received. Your feelings have no place when you're awakened. Your feelings have no place. They must be the last thing that determines whether you stay or go or distance yourself from these people. They have your name on their hit list. I don't care how long you've known them and grew up around them, how well you think you know them. If they've displayed obvious behavior patterns that you know didn't contribute to your growth, didn't contribute to even listening to your story, they didn't contribute with any ideas of how to figure things out and get past where you were to where you need to go. They're just soundboards. You can come in, comment, and have your comments better received, and very possibly get some feedback that you can use, rather than thinking and believing that these people that you've kept around you are what you think are friends. I've said this times before. Friend is someone you rarely see, but is always there for you. A lot of friends that I have that I can't think of right now, but they are friends. That may sound sad that I have friends that I can't think of off the top of my head, but there are so many people that are, I believe, when I say so many, I would say just maybe a handful when you think about it, that I can actually, when you do think about it, maybe just one or two, and that may be all I need. And I could reach out to them if I needed money, financial assistance. They will probably not only give me a few dollars, but a few $100, and will ask for no interest in return. And they won't trouble me for how I'm going to pay it back, how long it's going to take me to pay it back. Because you know why? I won't go that route unless it's something that's absolutely necessary. And they know me that way. That's the one thing I pride myself in. I am not a freeloader. I don't bum off for people. I don't purposely use people. I haven't always made good on a commitment. I haven't always done what I said I was going to do. But I don't have a pattern of unfaithful endeavors. Is kind of what I'm getting at. And you too are that same way. So don't overemphasize The fact that you didn't always do what you said that you were going to do. We're talking about blatant people that are out to get you and destroy you. There's no middle ground to find with these people. They're either in for the good in the long haul, or they're not, meaning they're out. Some people are just in it for the minute. They're not in it to win it, but for themselves maybe to win it. They're not in it to win it with you as a team. Let the dead bury the dead. Let the dead bury the dead. Say that 10 times to yourself until you're convinced of what the dead truly are to you. Because some of us, I know, we don't want to relinquish that tie, that hold that some of these people have on us. Because again, you talk yourself out of what your intuition is clearly telling you. If I disengage with these people, what will I lose? What will I gain? That has to be the question. And not in a selfish way. What will I gain? What will I lose? In a very determined, purposely fashion. You have to think, what will I lose? What will I gain? I'll tell you, for me, I've gained a new awareness of where I'm trying to go, because sometimes you can have so many people in your space till you can't see around them to where your destination is. They're blocking you. They're blocking you from a purpose. They're blocking you from seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They're blocking you from seeing the goals that you have. Say, for example, you have something planned for a specific day. All of a sudden, and this is how these entities will do. They will just pop up, call you out of the blue. And it's really not out of the blue. It is by design that these spirits are allowed to roam the earth for a time, which is what the good book says. He has given Satan over to rule this world for a time. Whether you believe that or not, that is what the book says. I don't argue it. I'll tell you what the book says too, if you care to hear it. It says in the last days, man will be lovers of self more than lovers of God. They will go about seeking their own desires. There will be haters of God. There will be backbiters. They'll curse their brother. It says in the last days, there will be people divided of the same household. The daughter against the mother, father against the son, and all the other likes. This is what you're seeing. It talks about sexual proclivities. And a lot of people become fixated on that one aspect of the world that are chosen to do certain sexual sins and sexual offenses against God. But it is much bigger than that. That is just one of the many things that God is saying when those last days come. And again, everybody doesn't embrace the Bible. I don't play religion. I don't go to church. I am the church. If you don't believe me, the book says, he said, tear this down, this building that you fixed for yourself to worship and bring homage to you, because this is what you equate your worth and your faith in me to. He says, tear this down, this physical thing, and he said, I'll build my church in 3 days. They questioned him, how you going to do that? Took us 40 years to build this thing. If you ever question God's ability, don't question him in an egotistical way. Question him in a humble way. Question him in an earnest way where you really, truly, genuinely want, an inquisitive way where you want and you're curious about how God, how are you going to do it? Show me. Don't question him in a contentious way. I'll tell you one thing, this is one way to measure God being real in your life. He took the narcissists and put them on a front stage, front and center, so you could see them for what they were. So you could see them for what they were. He put the spotlight on them for you. You had nothing to do with that. And if you're taking credit for that, really think deep within you. Did you Did you awaken yourself? It was something that led you to the light. For that I'm grateful. So just remember, everyone's been talking about the last day for decades and decades. Understand, God's days are not measured by man's days. I think that is very impressive. That many decades they've been talking about the last day. God is so merciful. He's been waiting and patiently waiting for those who are chosen to follow in his footsteps, because he don't want anybody to be lost. When you get to a point where death has no rule over you, you've lived through everything. You've went through a fire. You've came out of a wreck. You've lived in that lion's den and you're still here. You saved yourself. You got yourself out of those pinches. There is something stronger than you and I, man. I've always known that all of my life, but there's just a newfound awareness that I have. I'm not trying to be dogmatic towards anyone. I'm just telling you, at 53 years old, I never saw myself in a way that I see myself now, in a determined way to know and want to know God's purpose for my life. And it took this narcissistic experience. It didn't take those near-death experiences that I witnessed before in my life. No other awakening can compare to a narcissistic abusive awakening that I have experienced. So I now know, without a shadow of a doubt, of what let the dead bury the dead really truly means. It means cut all ties. Doesn't matter how well-meaning some of the people that you think are. Essentially what I'm telling you, if they're not awake, not talking about aware. My children are aware. How awakened are they? I'll go as far as to tell you this. The book says, he who has children, act as though you don't have children. He who has a wife, act as though you don't even have a wife. Act as though she's dead. So that you can fulfill the purposes of God. You can't have anything tugging and holding on to your ankles. And in your mind, you're saying, man, I could never desert my children. I believe in God and what he tells me to do. I must be obedient to that. I love my children to death. But if my children choose to go a route that doesn't complement us as a whole, I can't sign on to that. Sometimes you have to love people from a distance. It doesn't make your love any less effective. The Bible says you must love good and hate evil. You go make the choice. But in the meantime, understand when God says, let the dead bury the dead. You don't want to be nowhere in close proximity when he starts passing out his time cards. And when he starts doing the numbers, man, if something don't add up, man, we know. You don't want to be nowhere in proximity of the evil people that have came your way to try to do you harm. Because there's going to be some compensation to be had. Let the dead bury the dead. That being said, blessed.